Many Comes to Worlds is a meta-disjointed journey through the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I'm Kat, and I am so fucking irritated with Ticketmaster right now!
I'm Taryn, he, they, and I watched it all happen. I'm a witness. I'm a witness to what just happened.
Fuck Ticketmaster. We need to take them down. Of all the evils in this world.
We don't even have to do it, like through legislation or through courts or anything like that. Could somebody just please make a viable alternative to Ticketmaster?
Yes, and performers, please stop using it.
Yeah.
Like, can we move away?
Until there is a viable alternative to Ticketmaster, they will have to keep using Ticketmaster. At least that's what I assume.
But yeah, no, I mean, I guess that's fair. I feel like there are other options, but we don't use them very much. And, like, there is, for whatever reason, it just keeps getting funneled through Ticketmaster. And fuck them so hard. Like, I wasn't committed to, like, getting these tickets. I want a ticket very bad. But
it's My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, it's their Black Parade tour. But every fucking time I tried to get into the queue, oh, your access has been restricted. Please turn off every safety function you have, and we'll let you in. I spent 15 minutes on this. I was signed into Ticketmaster. That was not the problem. It was getting in the queue. And this is why people have conspiracies about Ticketmaster. That shit, what the fuck? I couldn't do it on my computer either.
Truly, this is your Eras tour.
I mean, you're not wrong. Because it's the Black Parade. It's the Black fucking Parade.
Yeah. No, I understand it.
As we start this episode, I'm still in queue.
What number are you?
I am now down to 22,024.
Wow, so you've moved like 1,000 spots in line.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I imagine it's some people bailing once they see the prices or what's left as far as tickets. Thankfully, because I only want one ticket, shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah. To
possibly get a seat.
I don't know if you've picked this up from context clues, but I'm not going. No hate to MCR, just was never that big of a fan, and
tickets are expensive.
This isn't worth it. If someone wants to send me a ticket, Gerard Way, send me a ticket. Send us both tickets, because Kat's not getting one. And she truly deserves one.
But, like, this, like, little alert here says that the advanced pricing is, like, starting at $96.50, so I may not be getting one at that price. They're kind of expensive.
Yeah.
The high end is, like, I don't even want to think about the high end, because I'm, like, that is upsetting. Cause
you don't want Black Parade sweat dripping onto you?
You know I'm good. Anyways, let's do a podcast about Stephen fucking King. Who finally got off Twitter. Yay!
What?
Yes, he announced, like, I think yesterday or like maybe the day before that he was finally leaving. He's using Threads now, so I mean we're moving over to Meta, but you know what? I'm finally happy to hear it. I wish more people would move away, because if you're going to be this critical of Elon Musk, why are you still using his platform?
It's not Stephen King related, but The Guardian, the UK news media, like the news that I read it through said that it was the biggest, that it's the biggest or like most read. I don't fucking know. I'm not in the UK. And my family over there is kind of UK adjacent, but they're not in the UK. I have no idea, but The Guardian has also made the decision to professionally leave Twitter.
Yay!
Like, they're not dealing with it. So I hope we are gonna see more of an exodus, like, moving forward.
Me too.
I wish that would have happened before this.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know that it would have affected the outcome of anything. I don't think it should have had to. Politics and business should not. They are meant to be two different areas. Elon Musk is just trash.
Yep.
You can cut this, I suppose, if you want to, but I will say, with my whole fucking chest, Elon Musk is trash.
You know I'm not going to cut that, because I've been raging about that for years. I hate that man.
before I was on that bandwagon, you were. There were years you couldn't tolerate my bullshit.
Fuck Elon Musk.
And I want to point that out also to our wonderful lobsters. I used to be one of those assholes. It was like, oh no, he's a genius. He's a genius. He's gonna save the world. He's a genius. No, he's trash.
He's trash.
He's trash. He's kind of a moron.
Oh my god, he's so fucking stupid.
He was born into money, and he used that money to buy his way into circles that would then call him a genius, as long as he was filling up hands.
Yep.
With money. Filling up hands with money. And babies? I don't know.
I hate that man so much. And while I have enjoyed watching Stephen King's, like, screenshots of him razzing on him, because, like, Elon Musk wants nothing more than for Senpai to notice him, and Senpai notices him, but does not like him. And then sometimes Senpai ignores him pointedly, which is also glorious. But I am so happy to see him leave. And I really do hope I see more people starting to shift away from it. Like, all things considered, I don't love Meta either. I would still take it. And in the Zuckerberg-Musk fight, I'm still Team Zuckerberg. I want this fight to happen so badly. I'm really upset we're not going to get to see that. But I don't exactly like Mark Zuckerberg or Meta either. They're also a very fucked up company. But you know what? Let's take some things out one at a time. Eventually, Ticketmaster will be on that list. I am down to 18,979.
Please, somebody who can program. I'm sorry, what number did you just say you're at?
18,979.
Well, you've really moved up the list.
Yeah, so...
Well, while we talk, we'll keep an eye on it, and maybe...
I might suddenly have to disappear for a minute.
I'll cover us while you're gone, and you can come back raging about the ticket you did or didn't get.
So we started reading the beginning of Dr. Sleep, so we read through part 1, and we fully support content warnings and taking care of your own mental health, so here are the content warnings for this book, and thus this episode, and there's a lot of them. I probably don't have all of them. There's a lot of them. All right. Let's see how many breaths this one takes.
I'll count them.
Alcoholism, child death, addiction, death, murder, violence, child abuse, kidnapping, blood, torture, substance use, substance abuse, injury, detail, gore, blood, body horror, death of a parent, cancer, terminal illness, domestic abuse, grief, sexual assault, medical content, physical abuse, pedophilia, sexual content. I don't know why I have that twice. Oh, sexual assault. There we go. Maybe that's why. Gun violence, vomit, sexual... Where am I? I don't even know where I'm at anymore. Hang on. Sorry.
Are we pausing the breath counter?
No.
Okay.
There are so many on here. Okay, back. Okay. Mental illness, stalking, suicidal thoughts, medical trauma, racial slurs, incest, racism, infidelity, car accident, and misogyny.
Counted 4. I didn't count the one, the triumphant one at the end. We have fun here. We have to, there is no way to make the trigger warning part fun.
No.
I suppose it shouldn't be fun, but at the same... I need it to be fun for me. I gotta hear them all.
And you read them.
Yeah, that too. Oh yeah, no. I read this section before Kat read her section. I got to experience all these totally fucking blind.
Yeah. This one has a lot in it. And in a lot of ways. Not just content warnings, but also in content. This is quite the book. Released on September 24th, 2013, Dr. Sleep is the sequel to the 1977 The Shining. On King's website, there is no inspiration story like there are for other books. There is a partial, story on Wikipedia, so kind of take that as you will. But according to Wikipedia, the story is part inspired by a therapy cat which predicts terminally ill patients' deaths named Oscar. Also, if you're going, damn, that's a big gap between books. 26 years between release years. Don't worry, King hired researcher Rocky Wood, known for writing books about Stephen King's work, to keep the continuity. This dude actually, does a lot of shit. It's actually quite cool.
The Danny Carr of Stephen King.
Yeah, and I think he actually ended up dying, the year after Dr. Sleep came out. So
this was his purpose.
Yeah. he had a destiny.
Danny Carr isn't allowed to die after Critical Role ends.
That's why Critical Role can never end.
It's all that keeps her heart beating.
That's the true knot. That'll make more sense in a moment unless you read
so
too.
Sorry, Danny Carr. I meant for that to be a cool little aside thing, and now we made it weird. I'm sorry.
We make everything weird.
That's why we're here.
So Dr. Sleep picks up with Danny Torrance, starting to be bothered by some of the ghosts from the Overlook. Wendy calls Dick Halloran up and asks him to come help, which he does by giving Danny a gift, the gift of a lockbox to trap the ghost in. He also tells Danny about his white, not in skin color, grandma, Rose, and his black, again, not in skin tone, monster of a grandpa. His grandma being the one who taught him how to protect himself, and now he's there teaching Danny. And eventually there will be a day that Danny will have to also be the teacher. Time passes. Someone is probably wearing glasses, but either way, Danny...
Sorry.
You okay there?
John Mulaney's gonna fucking sue us eventually.
You know what? That would probably get us some press.
Fuck, you're right.
And hey, you'd probably get to meet John Mulaney, at least in court.
Oh! Bring it. Bring it, Mulaney. It's an honor. Sorry.
Also, we don't have any money. Have fun.
Yeah, that too.
You're gonna sue us for what?
To take it down.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's okay. Anywho, either way, Danny is now a drinker like his daddy. Like we've already established, it beats down the shine. Danny's life is a mess. He drifts until he finally hits his bottom, which is spending $500 on coke and hooking up with a young woman who has a toddler. Danny, now Dan, wakes up after the wild night, and as he is compiling himself to leave, the kid, Tommy, comes out and runs for the coke thinking it's candy. Dan gets the kid over to his mother, Deanie, and puts the drugs on the counter, then hightails it out of there after taking her $70 and leaving her with her food stamps. He remembers this event often. Elsewhere, a young Andrea Steiner gets picked up by a traveling cult of energy vampires. They all got shining skills, which they use to feed on other shiners, and they want her because she's great at putting people to sleep. Here is where we meet Rose the Hat and the True Knot. Andy joins them and undergoes the pain of the change. In another Elsewhere, a powerful shining baby is born, Abra Stone. Lots of magical, weird, and predictive things happen around Abra. Drifter Danny ends up in a small town, gets him a job. He ends up visited by dead Deanie and struggles with drinking when she pops up along with her dead kid. But with the help of Billy, he is put in touch with his boss, who also struggles with drinking. Dan gets sober and life continues on, eventually becoming a hospice worker known as Dr. Sleep due to his unique way of helping patients at the end of life kind of get there with the help of the cat, Ozzy. Meanwhile, the True Knot is traveling, hiding in plain sight in their RV convoy, finding shining children to eat, but times are getting hard and their supply is starting to dry up. Their numbers are dwindling and something is going to need to change. Part 1 moves us towards the collision of the three. Abra starts appearing to Dan and is communicating with Tony. Eventually, the True Knot kills a kid brutally because pain makes the steam they feed on more pure. Abra begins screaming because she sees it. Rose the Hat senses her watching. Abra tells Dan about the kid via the blackboard they communicate through sometimes, and Rose the Hat is now sitting and waiting for the chance to snag Abra, waiting for her to get a little older, a little riper, before feeding. And that is the shortest way I could put together this, 200 at least, gauntlet of a section. A lot happened. I know that is a very brief overview of all of it, but that's why we're here. We're going to talk about all the other little details. Also, I would like to think of it as I'm getting better at figuring out how to sum shit up.
Oh, yeah.
Without missing too much.
Not to completely change the subject, but what number are you in line now?
13,744.
Holy shit, you've moved up more than 10,000 in line. Wow.
Yeah, so let's start unpacking.
Yeah,
Dr. Sleep.
So there's a fun moment.
There's a lot of fun moments.
There's a lot of very fun moments. There's one that I want to call out before I forget it.
Okay.
I don't think it has anything to do. It is completely an Easter egg. And it's one of the times when people are picking out books. And legit, he calls out Dean Koontz.
Oh, yes.
I literally paused reading. I don't remember. I exclaimed something out loud when I read it. I don't remember what it was, but I did. It was just such a fun moment because I think people assume that they would be rivals.
Yeah.
I don't know that many pro writer. I know no one in that circle. I do know people in a very niche corner of historical writing, they tend to all just be very supportive of each other and get together and consider each other friends and whatnot. I imagine it was probably a joke, particularly because they write in the same field. It was very funny.
It made me think of that Portlandia sketch with the Amy. I don't know.
Man.
Oh, yeah. And like them going, you know what? We hate Tori Amos and fuck Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah, it's just like, no, they're friends of mine.
They're lovely people. I don't have a problem with this person. You have created this rivalry in your head.
Yeah. Or like that Stevie Nicks quote where she's saying, like, I don't have rivals. They're just other female singers. Other female singers are my friends. Like,
stop pitting women against women.
But also men against... just stop pitting people against people because you're bored.
We can make our own rivalries, thank you.
And also, fuck you, TMZ. Just in general, fuck you, TMZ. Just because it was right at the beginning, and it's one of the things that you mentioned, too. The white grandma, black grandpa thing. I get what he's going for. It was kind of uncomfortable.
I think it was a struggle to try and figure out like how he was going to present his whole white and black thing that he has in his worlds, and the result was a little bit awkward.
It was. I almost wonder if he felt like, look, I am using a black character who is talking about his own family to clarify that this is not a skin color thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, all you did was make this kind of feel like still a skin color thing, my dude.
Especially because you don't have many people of color elsewhere in the book. And that, like, it makes it difficult.
And maybe that's my own, like, maybe that's my own shit. I don't know. I don't like it. It is uncomfortable, and in a way, in a section that is already deeply uncomfortable, having quote-unquote black grandpa be this very, very evil character in ways that are then very, very graphic. But the white grandma, he does make a point of saying that not Caucasian, just white, but having white grandma be the one to swoop in and save him. I think if he had not already laid those terms out as these are the opposing forces working upon this world, and now he's also pulling in the term Rose often, because white grandma was also named Rose. He is making it very clear this is the person who was working on the side of the tower, and on the side of goodness, and on the side of the world. Black Grandpa. What was Black Grandpa's name?
I don't remember. Let me see.
Okay.
I'm sure I have it highlighted.
I don't know that if I could figure out like a connection, I guess. But it's harder to do that when it's not.
I have one.
Oh, sick. Okay.
Grandpa Andy.
Oh, yeah!
Which, then we end up with Andy later.
Andy Steiner?
Yeah, Andrea Steiner. Yeah. So my fun thing here at the beginning is this is where we get the reference to Nosferatu, Joe Hill's book, because the person that Grandpa Andy threatens him with, Charlie Manx, is the villain and is essentially like the true knot in Nosferatu. And he even talks about he'll take you to a place for bad kids, which is interesting because Charlie Manx tries to present it as a fun place to go because he takes them to Christmas Land. It's really fun. And later in the book, when we get the site of all the RVs, one of the True Knots' bumper stickers or decals actually says I help cut trees in Christmas Land, which is another reference to Nosferatu.
Just to segue quickly then, is the True Knot similar to the bad guys then?
Yes. Bad guy, because Charlie Manx is the only...
Oh, he's a knot.
Yeah. Okay. Really great fucking book, and if you are looking for some Christmassy horror, that is
really
a reference, because obviously we have Christmas Land. It is such a good fucking book. I read it earlier this year, late last year, something like that, because King and Joe Hill were writing these books at the same time.
Yeah.
Joe Hill was writing Nosferatu. King was writing Dr. Sleep. They supposedly accidentally created similar villains, and that's why they decided to actually cross them and have references to each other, because Charlie Manx talks about the True Knot briefly as well in Nosferatu, as well as there's a ton of other King references like Derry, Maine. There's a little map at one point that actually talks about Pennywise's circus. But the idea is that the True Knot must have passed through because they are energy vampires. They kind of go for the same thing. Their approaches are different. Up until we read The Shining, and frankly even Dr. Sleep, where the writing has just been a little more captivating, I would have said Joe Hill was the better writer. He still might be. Like, I still really enjoyed the writing in Nosferatu for how long that book is, because it's like 600 plus pages. It was very compelling and it kept me going. At no point was like, man, I really wish I could take a break from this book, which is not a feeling I've had with the exception of like The Shining and Dr. Sleep. Sometimes I kind of was like, man, I'm a little bored with this. But overall, like The Shining in particular, I was engaged the entire time and like enjoying my reading. And that was the experience that I had with Nosferatu. I did end up like doing what I do with some of the particularly long books where I will offset like reading the physical book with the audiobook. So I kind of toggled back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, great fucking book. Really recommend it. They purposefully did make those references because they didn't want it to be weird when the book's released and it's like, well, we found out who Joe Hill was, like, because he got found out in like 2012 as to being Stephen King's kid. So we found out who he is, and now you two basically wrote like the same book. They're not the same for what it's worth, but you wrote the same villains. Yeah. So like, let's just get out ahead of this. They run in similar circles because they are all energy vampires. I really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the way that he used the reference to Charlie Manx and to Christmas Land. I think that was really well done.
As long as we're talking about references, I did enjoy the shout out to Jerusalem's Lot.
I know, I did too, because now I get to fucking read it!
Oh shit! Yes!
So the True Knot owns some towns, one of which is Sidewinder, the town below the Overlook, and nearest to Annie Wilkes in Misery, but they also own Jerusalem's Lot, which means that we finally get to just read Salem's Lot.
There is no possible overstating fucking joy.
Right?
I loved Salem's Lot growing up.
I am at 2,809.
Oh, so we really need to be keeping an eye on it.
I'm watching it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was thrilled. I was like, fuck yes! Because I know you said we may not get to it till like book 6. I was like, God, I really want to read.
Since I haven't read so many of these, I know it should be book 5 where one of the he's just a character from Salem's Lot. He comes in, so I know for a fact.
Yeah.
No matter what, it will get tied in pretty heavily there.
So I know from Stephen King's website, because he does list out some of the connections, that at one point, I just don't know what point it is. I don't know if it's an earlier book or not, but there is a point where Eddie Dean does actually talk about a book called Air Dance, which was written by one of the characters from Salem's Lot. So depending on at what point that was going to be at, that was like the other possible stage.
I don't remember enough. I just remember it as being quite good. I remember only being able to read it once, maybe twice, because it scared the ever-loving shit out of me. And this was at the height of my teenage, like, Anne Rice obsession. Like,
they are very different vampires.
No, yes. It's very... Stephen King, right, like, spoilers, Stephen King writes vampires scary. So when you are just entering your teenage, like, vampires are sexy phase, it's not what you're, like...
Your sexual awakening should not be Stephen King vampires.
Your sexual awakening shouldn't be Stephen King anything.
Yeah.
It can be the kind of people who read Stephen King.
Okay, I'm down to 329. Okay.
Well, you know what? Maybe we should pause for a minute.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait, because that was a big jump.
We'll be right back.
Okay. I'm okay. I didn't get MCR tickets. That's okay. I didn't think I actually would. I had just hoped. Especially because it's at the Black Parade. And yes, I am that basic bitch. I really enjoyed The Black Parade.
So yeah, MCR, since we know you're listening, if you want to like hook us up with at least a ticket to the San Francisco show in July, because you're not coming any closer to us like usual.
I know. Anyways, back to Dr. Sleep. And this book does have a ton of connecting points. And I had known that it was supposed to, because it was written after every fucking thing else. I think it was a good way for him to start bringing some of that stuff together. I don't know why, but like, obviously we haven't finished The Gunslinger. We have like 6 pages left. But I do feel better going into the rest of it, particularly after getting through what we have even of just Dr. Sleep. Yeah. It feels like I understand his world a little bit better. And I think that Stephen King really utilized this book as a way to do that. As I told you before, I didn't make it all the way through The Drawing of the Three. Either time that I tried physical book, I didn't make it past the like beach. And then in an audiobook, I can't remember what they were doing, but I know he had Eddie and Susanna.
Eventually, yeah.
She had like just come in and they were talking a little bit, and I ended up like
and
dropping.
She was probably Odette or Detta.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember because I did not get very far. I kind of like the voice that they did for Eddie was just very annoying.
There was another thing that you brought up that I wanted to check in with. So did we establish for sure that alcohol will tamp down the shine, or was it just something that we had supposed that was hinted at pretty heavily and now has been confirmed?
It is something that you and I have discussed multiple times. I feel like at the very least it was prevailing theory of this podcast that alcohol muted it. And yeah, basically now we've got the like confirmation. Because no, there were a lot of people who shined a little bit and they would then tend to reach for a drink to make it quiet. And I think that's why you and I both we seem to be of the hive mind that, yes, in fact, alcohol must stop it, because it was even more so than, like, drugs. Yeah. Because, like, there's obviously drug use with some characters, but their substance of choice it tends to be alcohol. And maybe it's because of the ease of alcohol. Like, you can go to a store and you can buy it. I can't go in and just buy cocaine. And alcohol is a prevailing thing throughout lots of cultures, throughout history. Because when we get to, like, The Eyes of the Dragon, where the one dude gives his son some alcohol or tells him to drink or something. I can't remember. The, like, servant, like, family. I can't even remember the names. It's something that you know for a fact exists even in a medieval-esque setting. Yeah. Whereas, like, when we get to a medieval setting, like, what kind of drugs would be there? What would be accessible to the lane? Is that the lane they live in? Yeah. What kind of drugs are even there? Would we understand what they did? Would we understand what they are? But alcohol, we get.
No, you know, that's a really solid point, because, like, if we're talking about just what grows naturally that we know is going to have a heavy effect, we have, like, I forget what tree, but we have, like, certain tree bark that is like rudimentary aspirin, essentially, then, which is not going to do anything. And then obviously there's shit that has like caffeine in it. There's coca leaves. There's poppies. There's alcohol, which can naturally ferment in nature and is easy to like make.
Squirrels make it.
Squirrels?
Drunk ass squirrels. Okay. There's a Steven Squirrel out there somewhere.
Then, yeah, like tobacco and then like marijuana. And of the list I just laid out, only a couple of those are really gonna, like, if you're trying to get a downer, only a couple of those would work. Oh, because there's also things like mushrooms. Yeah. Or like those frogs that you can lick the back of or whatever. And if you have a shine, I feel like things that are gonna make you trip will make that so much worse. And then, like, marijuana is going to make you so paranoid, because Danny described it as hitting his early teens and he's hearing voices. Yeah. But that the the alcohol made it kind of quiet and stop. But with the stigma on mental health, especially as he's coming up, because he's born in the very early 70s, very late 60s, he must have been.
Yeah, because if it was like 1977 and he was 5, he would have been born in 72-ish.
There's still so much stigma now, but how does a kid in like the mid-80s tell any doctor, I'm hearing voices, and not get sent to an asylum?
Especially like if you are known as the overlook kid.
Oh my God, right?
Because, I mean, we didn't have the dispersal of information, but eventually, if someone were to actually look into Daniel Anthony Torrance, you're gonna see something about him. You're gonna see a news article. You're gonna see anything about like survivors from the Overlook.
And when he knows it's actually real, he has experienced it as real. He can't. There is no way. There's no real direction to turn for help except for Dick Halloran. I think it's interesting too. Like Jack Torrance is another great example of that. Because when he starts experiencing the Overlook the same way as the other two, his response is, I'm not crazy. And I don't think that's a normal, like, the fact that the other two are experiencing it as well, and his response is, well, if they want to be crazy, I guess that's their business. That to me is the response of somebody who's, like, been called that or has been afraid of that. Like, the fact that both Danny and Jack had that fear of being taken away in the white jackets. Like, speaking as someone with some mental health problems, that is a deep fear. Jack wouldn't have known that it was real. Once he realized it was real, it was too late.
Yeah.
But it would have been his first time truly experiencing that shit with no alcohol to, like, quiet it.
Yeah.
Not self-medicating. Danny Torrance self-medicates something that he knows is real and has no way to help. Which is why, like, the AA moment where it's like, well, how come you're an alcoholic? It's only because you're an alcoholic. Kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way because there are outside factors for Danny Torrance. And the same two people can pick up a drink for the same reason. Why does one of them become an alcoholic? And understanding that part is also important.
It absolutely is. And I did like that Danny at least pushed back about the hereditary. Like, he did what he was supposed to do as his sponsor was telling him to do. But he does mention, but it is hereditary. You know that, right? Like, let's at least acknowledge the fact that this is not just because I can't control my life.
Yeah.
Or I can't handle my life. There are other factors to what leads a person to drink in excess.
Yeah.
Because lots of people, you've had a rough day, you come home and you have a drink. Because it relaxes you. It helps you ease off that, like, stress. Because, maybe you can't figure out another way to come down quickly. It becomes a problem when every day you come home and you have to do this. There are a lot of factors that lead people to drinking. And choices do get made. I'm not going to pretend like they don't. Been very open. My father was a drug addict.
Yeah.
He made choices. And some of it was his fault. He also had a lot of mental health issues. The drugs made it better for him. It can ruin the rest of your life. But if you are high enough, you don't notice, I guess. There's a lot to it. And the fact that, like, most of my aunts and uncles were also drug addicts, there's something to that. It's not just, oh, you made a bad choice.
That is a very old way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I will say, to me, that way, even though the thought process behind it is, I am powerless and I'm giving my power over to someone else, that way stinks to me of somebody wanting to think that they are retaining power over themselves and over this thing. Because it's, well, I'm the only one who put me here, so I'm the only one who can get me out. I have also been open that my dad was a drug addict as well, and a big NA guy. I grew up with so much of that around me. It always seemed like it was more about using the language of powerlessness. I'm powerless to my higher power. I'm not saying it's like that for everybody. I've known people who it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah.
But like the way his sponsor is talking in this section, it just feels very like, you put yourself there, so you gotta get yourself out. I think there's a reason towards the end of the section that he doesn't call his sponsor when he's sitting in the parking lot of that bar.
No, I think so too. I don't think you're wrong about that.
And I don't think it's just because he has shame over the thing he's not telling I can't remember his name, but
Casey,
that's what I thought it was. I don't think it's just that shame. I think there's someone else who will just deal with what's happening in the moment for me.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to turn this into, like,
let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's not the appropriate moment.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong. I think that, yeah, there's a reason he calls John Dalton instead of his sponsor, Casey, because in that moment, what does John do? He makes a joke. He immediately makes a joke. High-pitched, oh no, alcohol, like, thing. And it immediately breaks Danny's, like, focus on there. And he's like, okay, yeah, you know what? You did it. One sentence. And that's all it took.
Because it took the power away.
Yeah.
It made it not this big, scary thing anymore. And it made it small.
Yeah.
It feels like the monster in it a little bit of like, no, this is only as big and powerful as you believe it to be.
Yeah, it's about your perception of the thing. That will completely alter what you're dealing with.
And I wonder if that will come back later in the book. Not even just in his journey with alcohol, but just if him understanding that his perception of things changes them will come back later.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I feel like the way that Stephen King has laid this out in this book, that is what he's gearing up for. I think that's why we get moments like him telling his sponsor, it is hereditary, you know that, right? Of just like, hey, I get that this is what works for you, and I'm willing to adhere to the way that you want to be my sponsor, because as of right now, you are still my sponsor. When it stops clicking, I think it's the same as like when you need to find like a new therapist.
Yeah.
There's a point where we stop clicking and we have to then, okay, I got to find someone new. And Dan might eventually need to find a different sponsor, one whose values tend to align more with his. But for the start of his like sobriety journey, someone as strict as Casey worked, who says, no, you got to go do 90 and 90. You better go to a fucking meeting every single day.
Yeah.
Because he got him on a regimen and he got him to a place where he can be sober for 10 years. He is struggling now. It's 10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
It may be time that he needs to start looking towards other sponsors. Or much like he's destined to become here, where he's going to be teaching a young child how to use their shining powers, it's also maybe time for him to transition to being someone else's sponsor.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot stay in the same lane forever. At some point, you have to move forward.
Yeah.
The same way that being a drifter and a drunk did not serve him after a certain point. He had to move into a new stage of life. And that's what got him to 40, is getting clean and having stability in his life again. Not just wandering town to town.
Which is such an interesting juxtaposition to the True Knot.
Yes.
Which is that's all they do, is do their best to stay stagnant, drifting from town to town.
Yeah.
Just slowly meandering all these places that they go. Love the idea of the bad guy being RV people.
They just took their community with them, and I think that's...
Yeah.
You know what? This is a story about community and how important it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Because Dan had to find it in a stagnant place. He was not building community, traveling, but the True Knot takes their community with them.
Yeah.
They're dwindling, but they take their community with them. They are always in a group.
Now, if they could just find a food source that wasn't shitty. This was another note that I made.
Okay.
I got a bone to pick with Stephen King.
Okay.
Because the note that I made was Andy Steiner, trauma doesn't equal gay. I think a lot of this book is about different reactions to trauma.
Yeah.
And how it can, like, inform the rest of your life. Trauma does not make gay. Gay is just a thing that happens. Ask any gay person. And we've seen Stephen King, like, try to be cool and try to get it and just kind of keep failing. She's cool. Love Snakebite Andy. Don't love the trauma gay aspect. Maybe she was always gay, but we'll never know because he has laid it out that she's a trauma gay. And I hate it.
You know what? That's fair. There is the slight possibility that Rose the Hat is just so hot and good at oral that you become interested in women.
I mean, okay. Rose the Hat is my everything. I know she's the bad guy and I do not give a shit.
I think that's how you're supposed to feel with the way that, like, the effort he goes into to create her. She's a really well-developed character because she is not only physically extremely described, but she's also got this, like, personality that's well-described of just being, like, the cool girl.
Yeah.
She's the cool chick. Like, everybody wants to be her friend or fuck her. And some people, like, aren't sure which boat they go into, so they're in both boats. Like, they all want to be around Rose the Hat.
I wonder if it's part of her, like, powers?
Yeah.
The, like, not even extreme charisma, but kind of?
Yeah. Well, I think it is because I do think it's a shine because, like, when we talk about Jack holding court with his friends, there are a lot of people who were drawn to Jack Torrance. There was a point where, because he hated himself so much, it started to come out that people stopped wanting to be around him.
And if he was drinking that much all the time and drinking tamps down the shine, if the shine was drawing people to him, they would be leaving because the shine was not shining.
I do think the shine gives you some quality of that, because I think it's the same we see with Dan when he is sober. Not only is he helping people, but he's helping people in such a way that almost everybody likes him. Like, he gets into a little bit of an argument with that orderly who had mishandled a patient and left bruises. But prior to that, the orderly was very nice to him. Everybody just likes Dan. He is charismatic. He is friendly. He talks about, like, people that he had dated. And, like, he still has an amicable relationship with at least the waitress that he had dated years before, and she's engaged to somebody else.
Yeah, she still gives him pudding and shit.
Yeah, so I think that there is an aspect of the shine makes you likable, but alcohol doesn't make anybody likable. Like, you think it does. You think it makes you fun, but it's because you're now relaxed and you're not overthinking every little thing you do. But in actuality, the people dealing with you may not find that to be true, especially if you drink to excess. So what are your thoughts on Grandma Rose versus Rose the Hat? Two Roses in the same book.
Oh, you know, I actually made a note about that too. Did Rose the Hat take the name to try to legitimize herself? Because if they're taking steam from people who have a shine, in the back of their minds, hearing Rose might tip something that says safe. Mm-hmm. I don't know for sure. It could also be like a coincidence. Obviously, names get reused a lot.
Yeah.
We have Andy and Andy. We have Rose and Rose. I think there were other ones. But those for sure. I also didn't know if maybe he's just reusing names because we cannot be the first people to notice that he does this.
Yeah.
And he's doing it on purpose, like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I will reuse whatever names I want to reuse, and I'll do it in the same damn book. I actually legitimately have been wondering if she's done it because, again, like, if you are someone with a shine, especially a child with a shine, if you either know about the Rose, or even just have some kind of unconscious, subconscious understanding of the rose, because I am assuming we're on Keystone Earth, then you're going to hear that name and something about it is going to say safety to you.
Yeah.
You're going to think like, oh, you are one of the white, because that is a name of, like, that is a name associated with the white.
Yeah.
That would be my best guess. I don't know if it will have more meaning going forward, considering there is a Rose and an Andy within this group. There was a Rose and an Andy before.
Yeah.
Within the same book. I wanted to know what you thought about Tommy.
Oh, you mean Tommy, who was killed by Uncle Randy and was bashed in the head? I mean, obviously, we see a lot of Tommies, and they very often end up murdered.
And that this Tommy got caught spying.
I did find that wildly interesting. And I think it's interesting that that's the thing that keeps haunting him, is that kid in his, like, Braves shirt with a full diaper. Especially because, like, we've watched Dr. Sleep before. The movie doesn't go that route.
Yeah.
Like, she's already dead, and instead, like, we have Deanie actually puts her arm around Tommy when Dan leaves him there. Like, legitimately, the movie puts it more on, like, Dan, this is your fault.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Deanie, when she shows up as a ghost after they've been dead for a little bit, she straight up tells him, like, yeah, I sold the Coke, I cut it with some sugar, and I sold it for $200. Like, ultimately, that's $70. She figured out a way to go around it. And she did have food stamps. Like, yeah. It's not like that was not going to be useful. He did take her $70. But, I mean, ultimately, he is beating himself up so much more than she seems to even care. And she even warns him, like, stay away from the woman in the hat.
Yeah.
Don't go near her. Like, I'm trying to do you a solid, man. You are feeling so much more guilty than I am about this. Like, shit got bad, obviously, because my son's dead, I'm dead. But it had nothing to do with you. He was a blip in their life.
I'm not saying he should have taken her money. If he hadn't, and had just left, and certainly if he hadn't stood there thinking about it for as long as he did, he'd have never seen the kid.
Right.
And the kid would have
gotten some Coke.
Canny.
No, it's true, because I think about that too. It's like, you did stop that child from taking drugs. It's
that same impulse to take it onto himself, because now it's something that could be fixed, or could have been fixed.
Yeah.
If he had just done something different. I wonder if that's why he won't tell anybody about it, because he says that was his bottom, but really, his bottom, I think, was stealing a homeless person's blanket. Like, come on, man. They might have shared. I wonder if in reality at this point he knows that really wasn't his fault, and he just doesn't want to be told that. I wonder if he feels like hanging on to that guilt is what's keeping him on his straight and narrow.
It's the same way that Jack was using breaking his arm. Honestly, actually more hitting the bike. And then occasionally popping in with, oh, also I broke my kid's arm. But mostly I hit that bike. That bike without a driver. That bike without a cyclist. That my friend was driving the car up.
That I didn't hit that bike. He hit that bike. I'm not going to worry about breaking my child's arm.
Because that was one thing that was totally my fault. But the bike bothers me more than anything. And it wasn't really his fault. As far as you can tell, no one got hurt, which is the same thing that we see with Dan and the Deanie Tommy situation, where nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately she tells him, I sold the Coke for $200. So you took 70, but I at least came out ahead 130.
Abra has big poltergeist feels.
Yeah.
And I had been kind of feeling that way. And then when Rose the Hat said we have to let her, like, rape in, let her get a little older, that feels...
I do think it's worth clarifying that you do mean poltergeist in terms of, like, legitimately what a poltergeist is and not, like, the movie Poltergeist.
I don't even think I've seen Poltergeist
That's
yet.
why I wanted to make that distinction because, like, while that may be true with the movie Poltergeist, that is not context that is being used here.
Yeah.
Because it's not existent here.
Yeah, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the, like, generally accepted idea that poltergeists are often caused by young people coming into adolescence, particularly young girls, and just young people around the time of Menarche. Sorry, I can't go there.
If John Mulaney doesn't sue us, then
Henry Zebrowski will.
We still have no money.
I have such Zebrowski brain rot.
Can you take some of the debt? Can I transfer debt to you if you sue me? Because it's all I got.
Take it. You can have it. You could always just put this podcast on your network. Yeah, around the time of... I legitimately can't remember how it's pronounced anymore, but you're around the point of puberty, psychic energy builds up around the young person so much.
Carrie.
Yeah, actually, Carrie is a great example of a poltergeist. So we know that he's dipped into this before.
Yes.
But it's a really, like, it's not like a common thing, like they're just around. It's more that it's common, like, folklore. It's typically assigned female at birth individuals, but assigned male at birth individuals also can kind of get that kind of energy going. It's just...
Because nothing's more terrifying than a girl wanting sex.
Pretty much. How dare she?
Harlot.
I can't follow that up. So yeah, around the time that the little harlot gets her first period, and, you know, others, the energies get going, and the kind of shit that we're seeing around Abra happens. Which is why it also kind of makes sense in The Shining that they say that, oh, you know, when they're little, it'll be like this. It could get worse as he gets older, but, you know, by adulthood, it's going to taper off. He might have, like, a little something, but really there won't be much left.
Yeah.
That also sounds a lot like that kind of phenomena. That also makes a lot of sense. If that's what Rose the Hat is thinking as far as Abra, that she is a very strong, that she has a very strong shine, and that it's likely more of a poltergeist type shine than it is just like kind of a bit of a psychic flare. That to me would be why she's saying, let her ripen. Let her get a little older. Let's let this situation kind of go up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, often poltergeists come about when there is turmoil, and there will be turmoil because there's emotional, like, issue. Like, if you have psychic ability, like, there is a reason Dan Torrance starts drinking. When you have that level of magical shit going on, you have turmoil emotionally. And I wonder if her thought is also, let her kind of hit her early teen years and start fighting with everyone around her. They will think she ran away. We're not far enough in, but I do wonder if that's kind of the thought too. So.
Well, and I think there's also, like, if pain purifies the steam, you can hurt a preteen and a teen so differently and so much easier.
Yeah.
Like obviously there is a physical pain, but I do think that there's also a degree of emotional and mental pain which you can cause. And you're going to have, like, all of the, like, biological hormones, forget about your shine, but your biological hormones just fucked up.
Yeah.
That it just changes shit. So
no one is in more pain than, like, a 12-year-old girl.
Oh my god, especially if she's, like, trying to do her hair.
Ugh.
Like, that's the fucking worst. Being 12 and trying to make your hair not look stupid.
They just get Snake by Andy to, like, convince her parents to hate her or something. That they don't love her. Or to just tell her hair looks stupid.
Well, and especially in her case where her parents, especially her mother, is so... Please just make it go away. Please stop doing this. Please just stop doing this. You're... Like, I don't know how to handle this, and I'm struggling with my emotions in order to, like, interact with you, that all I want is for you to stop. Please just stop. which I do think it's interesting that it's her mother who is struggling. Like, the dad has some issues, and, like, grandma's the one who's like, no, like, this is fine. She was born with Cal. Like, you guys should have expected this. She's a super...
This is what happens.
You know?
I told you. No one listened to me.
But Lucy is really struggling with it in a way that's really reminiscent, to me at least, of some of the stuff Jack Torrance wanted, of just like, please just stop. Please stop. I want you to stop doing this because I don't want to have to deal with having a crazy kid. I don't want to have to explain to, like, all of your friends when we do, like, play dates or shit like that, or parties, why you are weird.
See, I took it a total other way. The way that Lucy's kind of responding with it. It seems so much more the way that Wendy was, of, I understand that this is the way that you are, but I'm so worried about what that means for your future. And I am worried about the effect that this is having on you now. This is not normal. This is really, like, hurting you at times. I am worried about you having friends for your own sake. Like, it didn't... I don't know if I missed a point where she was worried about it for herself. Mostly it has only seemed like it was the same worries that Wendy had of just, like, it's not normal for a 10-year-old to not be able to sleep, and it's not normal for a 10-year-old to still have invisible friends to this degree, and, like, these things aren't normal, and you having to worry about these things is not normal.
For me, I think it was the way that Lucy tends to be more denying of it. Wendy accepted, like, this is Danny. This is just a thing Danny does, to the point that she would ask him, like, hey, is it safe? Like, can I do a thing? And Danny would confirm or deny for her, like, yeah, I know, it's fine. Lucy she has expressed more fear of it, that she is less accepting. It's the same as, like, her line of, like, please God, just turn off the radio. Like, in Opera's head. Like, and I think that is where, like, it feels like she is less embracing. Wendy was very like, no, this is just my kid. He does this, and I love him, and I'm going to do what I can for him. Lucy does not quite give off that same energy for me, because she is wishing it away. Yeah. And her kid is much stronger than Danny was. We know this. Yeah. And that is probably terrifying. Especially, like, the music, where the music starts playing over the piano. But they went to the point of, like, hey, you can't do that you shouldn't do that. You know, that's not a great idea. And so the kid instead, like, occasionally just uses it to put herself to sleep. Wendy did not quite deploy the, like, hey, you can't do that. She just let her kid be her kid. And that can also be a symptom of the times. Like, especially in the 70s, we still use it of boys will be boys. And Aubrey's a girl, which is different. You have to be socially acceptable as a girl. You can't be weird. That is not okay. Because you have to eventually take care of a boy. And in order to have a boy pick you, you need to be normal.
I wonder how much mind reading Abra is really doing, because we're not really seeing that from her perspective the way we did with Danny. Yeah. And Danny knew when shit freaked his parents out. Yeah. And just kind of withheld from doing it.
That's true.
Abra doesn't seem to have the same, like, filter. Yeah, she doesn't know, like, oh, I shouldn't. I think
that's because she's caught in the, like, doesn't everybody do this?
Exactly.
Why are you acting weird about this? All of us do this, right?
Whereas by 5, Danny knew that no, not everybody did it, because he could see in his mind that not everybody did it.
Yeah. She is so unregulated in her powers. That's why she ends up just seeing, oh, you're murdering a baseball boy. Why am I watching this? I don't want to watch this. I'm freaking out. Or the whole 9/11 thing, because she, like, gives her parents, like, dreams about basically what's gonna happen, and the flight numbers are like on her body. So, all of my obsession on the numbers throughout these books, I'm not crazy. There's more than 19.
I did have a moment of going like, oh my God, what's 11? What's 157? What is this? What is this? What could this relate to? And I'm like, I will deal with it when I'm out of the section. I will deal with it when I'm out of here. And then of course it is done a few pages later. No, I wonder how much of this is also a symptom of this being so much bigger of a project. The Shining is really like 3 people.
Yeah.
That's it. This is like 2 or 3 different books, all being written simultaneously.
It was written with a different intent, too.
Yeah.
Because he was pulling together so much of his worlds.
Yeah.
Into this, like, one little space. And it's just like, so you know how y'all keep talking about it? Here you go.
Yeah.
It's all coming together now.
I'm not doing more of this if you don't get it from here. But I'm sure there will be more.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not going to lie, like, obviously, we still have 2 parts to go in this book. But if he wanted to write essentially a 3rd Shining book, I would love a book about Abra.
Yeah.
I think that could be really interesting to see her as an adult, because this is really cool to see Danny as an adult.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I don't want to see how he destroys Abra's life.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair. But, I mean, we always hoped that our children do better than we did. And technically, Danny does seem to be doing better than his dad. And so, if he as the teacher can teach Abra how to, like, use her even stronger powers than he has, well enough, maybe her life will be better.
What, by being alive?
Not even being alive, but being able to maintain a sobriety for so long.
Yeah, that's fair. He's got 10 years.
And when he starts falling into that, like, I'm too good for this attitude, he checks himself. Because he does remember his dad. Because he even occasionally hears the, like, making people take their medicine shit. Which Jack had gotten from his father. So, by all means, we are improving generation to generation. Dick Halloran's doing better than his grandfather.
Yeah.
We get better each iteration. And, I mean, Ka is a wheel. Jack's wheel was kind of shitty, and it ended with him being eaten by a hotel. And Danny, at least so far, he's lived past, I think, his father's age by this point.
Yeah.
Because he's at least 40. And Jack Torrance did not reach that point. He is able to hold a steady job. And he, I think I even made a note about something about, like, because Jack wanted to become the manager. He wanted Ullman's job. That's why he thought the hotel was going to make him the manager.
Yeah.
And Danny has, like, these moments of, like, that shit, but he is happy with the job that he has. Yeah. To the point that he is humble about it when they're like, oh yeah, no one has, like, that skill like you, Dr. Sleep. And he's just like, I'm not a doctor. I legitimately, you should call a doctor because I'm not one. I will come and keep people company while they die, but you should still call the doctor, the actual one. He keeps himself more balanced than Jack was even prior to the Overlook. Because Jack was already struggling with this shit.
Yeah.
Because he was struggling with his own self-worth. And Danny has those same struggles, but the way he expresses them is better than the way his father expressed them. So, Abra might be fine.
Maybe, yeah.
She might have this shit figured out.
Abra is surrounded by people who love her and don't break her arms.
Yes.
She has a support system who believes her and is doing their best to help her and help her learn to, like, manage the shit that happens in her head and has always believed her.
And she has had that support from the very beginning of her life. Whereas Danny had Wendy.
Yeah.
And occasionally Jack when Jack tuned in, and then eventually he had Dick, but he didn't have that consistency.
Yeah. Well, and he spent the first few years of his life using his shining to try to fix his parents' marriage.
Yeah.
Which is not a great...
No.
Not a great, like, first 5 years of your life.
One other thing, because I just see it in my notes now. Rose the Hat, when she's talking to Crow Daddy, I think he's the one who actually mentions this, when they're trying to figure out the canisters. Because they're running out of food. They only have so many canisters full, and they need to feed because somebody just died essentially from starvation. Steam starvation, but starvation. He asks her, when was the last time they had a seventh wave? Which is basically the big event. That's kind of like what 9/11 was for them, where they could go and just sort of feed off of the steam from the amount of people that died in one spot. And 7 had been the number used all through the fucking Shining. And the fact that they identify this as a 7th wave. I don't know quite why it is a 7th wave, like he describes, like, oh, it's a big event. Why 7th wave?
So I had assumed it was steam, right?
Yeah.
Waves of steam. 7th wave of steam.
I'm interested to see, like, if they ever get into that further about what the 7th wave was.
Yeah.
Because, again, I understand that the steam, it's a big event, but why 7? And is it 7 waves literally come off? You can get 7 hits off of it or something. Yeah. What is it about that? And because we do get the, like, bit with Abra and the numbers from the planes, you know, we know that numbers mean something to Stephen King. There are no coincidences.
No.
Oh, fun. You want to hear one fun, stupid thing that happened?
Yeah.
So the very beginning of this book, because it opens with that, like, AA quote about, like, fear and shit. Immediately I went to fear is the mind killer. And because, like, in On Writing, Owen King, the 20th anniversary, Owen King talks about recording books for his dad. And one of the books he recorded for his dad was Dune.
Oh, shit.
It's like, okay, I know that you've read Dune. Like, I already figured you had read Dune, but I know you read Dune. Because your kid read it to you. And that's if you hadn't read it even before that. Because you wanted to get your kid into reading different books, and you got your kid into reading Dune.
We know now.
But yeah, that was, like, it's an AA quote. I'm sure it was not intentional, but that was where I went, is fear is the mind killer.
Good God. They said that at AA, I think more people would go. I mean, it's pretty popular, but... God, there was a lot in here.
There's a lot in here. It all feels somewhat important. Because also the train, the dead bodies on the train, and how Abra can see them and shit like that. And, like, it looks comical, like, when you have the adults on it, because of the way it, like, has to adjust itself.
I feel like it's only gonna pick up more from here. And the flies on the face. Because I don't think we've seen that in any of the other books, have we?
I don't think so. But it does kind of lean into your insect theory, because everything was very insect described when it was kind of it.
Yeah.
So the flies kind of appearing, because he does save Billy, which I think is interesting too, is that the flies had picked Billy, but because they weren't just, like, covering him, there was a chance of saving him, which is where we end up, is that he does manage to get Billy to a hospital in time before anything gets really bad.
And that he never sees them at the hospice. So it's almost like a death that's avoidable?
It seems like it, almost like something chose. Because, I mean, he is dealing with terminally ill patients, people who are having things like cancer. And while eventually Wendy might have developed cancer from the smoking, she did smoke, so it was a controllable thing. If she had not smoked, she would not have died. I mean, that's not true, but you get my point, is that there's this concept. And since I think that's the same way that Stephen King's mother died, was smoking led to cancer or something, I mean, there's feelings with that. Would Wendy have actually died had she stopped smoking? Like, at least not that way. Would she have died some other means?
Or is it like the flies are a warning? It's like, okay, this is the amount of time that you have. And it was like, up until this point, there is another path that can be chose. Once you're in hospice, there is no other path.
It's true.
there are no warnings, there is no...
This is just what is happening. This is the world you live in.
Yeah. Because he also had... The way that he describes, like, trying to get his mom to go and get checked out.
Yeah.
She fought him on it because she felt fine. It doesn't sound like he was successful at getting her to go. And she was much further along down, like, the road of, like, because she was covered in them.
Yeah.
Whereas the guy only had a few.
Yeah.
So, I wonder if it's basically like, something is changing. There's, like, 2 paths to go down. You have a choice. And, once you're in hospice, there is no, like, this is just, the choice has been made. Maybe that will also get revealed.
I guess we will find out. So you want to tell us about our cards?
Oh, yeah. The last one that we pulled before coming into Dr. Sleep was the 5 of Cups.
The 5 of Cups expresses disappointment and regret with an unexpected outcome. So yes, it is quite appropriate for what we knew about Dr. Sleep going into it, because we have seen the movie, but also just, What did we get this time?
The Queen of Pentacles.
Ooh, okay.
This is lovely. The Queen of Pentacles sits on a throne with some bitch in, like, ram's head, like, armrests. She is holding a pentacle that she looks down at, like, you could either say sorrowfully or kind of irritatedly. And there's a really cool mountain and river scene behind her. And she has a very long green veil. So long that it touches the ground. She wears a red, like, gown over a white chemise.
So the Queen represents a nurturing figure, investing time and resources for others. She is a symbol of security and sharing wealth. And we know that we have 2 very experienced shiners on their way for Abra.
Wow.
So next time we are going to be reading part 2 of Dr. Sleep. I think that section might be a little bit shorter than, part 1 was. But yeah, we are going to be reading part 2.
Part 2. Well, go then. There are other worlds than these.
You can email us at manyconstantworlds@gmail.com, DM us on Instagram, and check out our Patreon. All links can be found in the description of our episodes.
We work really hard for the Patreon, and Megan gets mad if we don't say that.
We work hard for that money.
so hard for that money.